What is going on? You are listening to TAGSPodcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast. I am your host, Stevie V. This is episode 637. Alongside, holding down the fort with me today, Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How the hell you doing? Happy Black History Month.
Hello, darling. Happy Black History Month. And what a way that we are starting out in this book.
Yeah.
February is already crazy. I thought January was crazy.
Yeah, exactly. There is so much going on. Yeah, I had to just take a moment. One of the best remedies for taking a break is to just dance. And I went to the New York Eagle last night. My boyfriend gave me permission to go, and I went and was a shout out to DJ Mitch Farino. Mitch Farino, you can follow him at Mitch Farino, Ferrino. I just love his music. He's just been such amazing, great vibes, and I was just dancing right next to his DJ platform by myself and serving it. And oh, what a great stress reliever. It was so fun, and I just highly recommend it. Partly due, though, I was inspired because the Grammys were last night on Sunday. Tonight's Monday when we record this. And the Grammys, I thought, were sensational.
Weren't they?
I know you watched them. What did you think?
think?
We'll go through some of the major moments. I mean, for starters, we have to talk about Kendrick Lamar, who just stole many of the wins. I've loved him throughout the years. Beyonce took home the first time ever Album of the Year, which
Queen
has not won for the country album she did, correct?
Yeah,
and
she did.
Yeah, my boyfriend loves country and said, "Well deserved." So that's good coming from a country fan, because there's been a little bit of controversy of accepting her.
Girl,
they didn't acknowledge her at the CC Music Awards,
the CMTs.
CMTs. They didn't even give her a nomination.
I know. And now she's showing all of them what a real country album sounds like. And she won Album of the Year at the Grammys. She's doing the damn thing. And I love me some Beyonce. So congratulations to the Queen. Also, we have to talk about Lady Gaga, who is also a queen.
Lady Gaga was amazing. And that music video for the new song is really good.
So great.
But her song that I think was up for a Grammy with
Bruno Mars.
I love that. Yeah, I love that song. It's so good. They're such an amazing collab team. She said, which I'm glad she shouted out at the tail end of her acceptance speech, she said, "Trans people are not invisible. Trans people deserve love. The queer community deserves to be lifted up. Music is love." And I just thought that got a standing ovation, and the camera was on everybody, Beyonce, everybody clapping and really cheering for that moment.
Yeah, she's a true icon. She's a true ally. I just have no notes for Lady Gaga. Her voice was amazing. Her and Bruno Mars were outstanding singing California Dreamin', and which was a tribute to LA and all the things that were going on there with the fires. So I enjoyed so much of it.
Yeah, the other star of the show was all the support for the fires that you just mentioned that have devastated so much of LA. And, they had a QR code that you could scan, and just the audience alone watching the live telecast raised over $7 million. But I'm sure they're going to raise even more, because many of the stars that were in that room last night didn't have a chance yet, but I'm sure are going to donate. And this is a critical time. I mean, I know you and our other co-host, Teddy, who lives in LA, was talking about relief efforts. And if you think they need it, they probably do. So that was really amazing. I loved the Quincy Jones tribute. I'm a huge Quincy Jones fan. I got to interview him for my former site back in a few years back. And I think I mentioned that he was just so warm and friendly and was asking me for workout tips because he was like looking
Oh,
at my body and giving me all these
okay,
accolades. And
cute.
I'm like, I'm supposed to be interviewing you, Quincy Jones. You're asking me what I do to work out? What? And yeah, it was kind of interesting. But Cynthia Erivo starting the number out for the Quincy Jones tribute was just, I mean, like, oh, she's like an
Iconic.
amazing actress, but like, do we need to start seeing her on tour? I mean, it's
Yes,
kind of
we
that
do.
amazing. I mean, wow, really stand out singing the legendary Fly. What's the
Fly Me to the Moon
yeah,
by
right.
Frank
By
Sinatra.
Frank
Yeah.
Sinatra was just amazing. But, Chapel Roan shouted out questioning the music industry, and her performance was brilliant. A lot of people were. Did you have some? I also loved Shakira and her. I
Shakira.
thought she did
Love
such an
her.
amazing job and was so stellar. We
Yeah.
had a
All the
thread
best new
going
artists,
on,
right?
yeah, that was really. Oh, I loved Charlie XCX. I just thought, wow, what a badass performance, and
Yeah.
I just love her. But there was a lot of really good LGBTQ artists that were nominated, and why I love the Grammys a lot is because you kind of learn, maybe you missed it, but throughout the year, but you learn about some of these artists sometime, like Kay Tronda earned,
Yeah. Kate
who's
Renata.
Kay Tronada, thank you, earned 3 Grammy nods. He was nominated for Best Dance Electronic Album for his album Timeless. And I just decided to download it right now and listen to it. There's 2 versions of it. There's the one that got nominated, and then there's this instrumental version of it too. But the
Mhm.
dance one with the vocals, it's like my kind of music.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so good. Oh, I love it. It's
I
because
live for
it's
him.
like dance, soul, a nod maybe to the 70s funk. And this could be like a classic album that I might just put on like whenever, as I was like, but see, I would have never known. And there was many queer artists that were represented, including Iman Jordan, and he won for a song that was called Deliver, that he put on TikTok, written by 4 queer artists that are all Black and queer. The song won, and he's ready to launch another song tomorrow, which is really exciting, called Deliver. And I just thought excellent that Black queer artists in Black History Month just shined. Did you have some other stellar moments or things that stood out for you that you, or in general, the vibe of the Grammys last night?
Well, for me personally, the best new artist performances were just stellar. Doechii performing was amazing.
We just
Benson
saw her
Boone
on Drag Race,
on
correct?
Drag Race. Yeah, we were talking about her. And Teddy Swims and Ray, who sounded phenomenal. I'm so happy that she got her shine on the Grammy stage because she won big at the Brit Awards. I'm sad that I don't know if she won a Grammy that evening, but it wasn't televised if she did. So she sounded great. I would have been happy with any of them winning, but our girl Chapel took the crown, and I could not be happier because we adore Chapel Roan and just all the things that she stands for. So I really enjoyed the Grammys. I was like glued to the television. But did you see what happened with Babyface on the red carpet?
I didn't. I was going to talk about another red carpet moment, which we will in a second, but fill me in
Okay.
on Babyface before we get to Yee and Bianca.
That's a mess. Listen, but this is also a mess. So what happened was Babyface was on the red carpet speaking to interviewers, right? They were pretty young, little girls, cute little girls, whatever. So she was in the middle. One of the interviewers was in the middle of asking her a question, and the other interviewer, she
Asking who a
makes this
question?
asking Babyface a question,
Okay.
and the other interviewer made this strange look on her face, and then while Babyface was in the middle of responding, she called over to Chapel Rowan for Chapel Rowan to come over and speak to them.
Oh no.
Oh no, it was the snub of all snubs. It was horrible. The I just cannot understand what would possess this young lady to even do this, because Babyface is an icon. You don't snub an
He's
icon
an
in
icon.
his face.
He's in his own right has produced amazing music throughout the years, but he's produced so many. I mean, from Tony Braxton to on and on and on. He's just really just a legend, and he just got honored not that long ago for his work. I think he got a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood, and yeah, the thing about these red carpet things, there was a time when we had our last site, my sister and I, and one of the options, so we covered like lifestyle, and we would do things that I really liked, like Fashion Week and so forth. Well, then we had an option to maybe do red carpets.
Hmm.
I did a couple of them. I hate them. Hate it, hate
Okay.
it, hate it, because you are in this pit, and basically PR people are going along with their clients, and they're either accepting you or not accepting you or snubbing you because maybe your publication isn't as big as another publication that they really want to be interviewed by. And it's, you really have to shout out question. I hate it. It was never my favorite thing ever, but there was a few times where I had to do this, and you have to really be quick on your feet. You need to know who is about to come down that red carpet. You really have to be quick and do your homework. You cannot snub somebody like that, and you might have an eye on the next interview, but you definitely do not rush an interview when you're in the middle of one. It's bad form from
Bad form.
journalistic views, and it's just like you don't do that. So,
Yeah. It's just interesting to me that someone from this specific demographic could snub somebody that has provided so much to the culture that they claim that they support. So
right,
I
yeah.
it's just beyond me. So I that young lady, people are calling out for her to be fired. People like Charlie Puth, who Babyface has inspired, people are like Khloe Kardashian put it on her Twitter that that young lady, that was just insane for her to do.
It
So
is.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know that we need to cancel. I mean, I think she just needs to learn that. Hopefully, she learns her lesson, and this is like a major one. That hey, if you're going to be a music journalist, you need to know all of music, and that's she should definitely learn her lesson in a big way. But I mean, hopefully, it's a learning lesson, and she can grow from this.
yeah, I
And we
hope
don't
so
need to
too.
cancel her altogether because maybe she just didn't realize who she was interviewing, which is sad, but it could be true.
Yeah.
Another crazy moment that happened, and we won't spend too much of it, was Kanye West, who came with his wife Bianca, and she came in. He looked ridiculous just in this black boring t-shirt ensemble, but his wife had a fur coat on, and she revealed that she had this like, basically she was naked on the red carpet. I mean, there's this teeny tiny nude sheath that went over her, but all parts were revealed in it. And if he wanted attention, he got it, because this was one of the things people were talking about. People are saying that, I know you sent me that they were kicked out of the Grammys, and I don't know that they were ever kicked out of the Grammys for this moment, but he had a party going on in another part of town. So I think he just wanted the attention to walk that red carpet and get off it. Whether he was kicked out or not, who
Well,
knows?
what I sent you was Don Lemon. Well, Kanye came for Don Lemon because Kanye heard that Don Lemon said that he was kicked out, when in fact Don Lemon was correcting the fact that he was not kicked out. So Don Lemon reported that he was not in fact kicked out when everybody else was reporting that he was.
Right.
And so Kanye came for Don Lemon, and Don Lemon responded saying that, it wasn't me that was saying all of these things. And Kanye, in his attack of Don Lemon, called him a coon, which is just ridiculous for me.
Yeah, right.
And Don Lemon came back at him and said, "It's funny that you would call me that word when your MAGA hat must be too tight," because
Yeah.
I just thought that was hilarious because Don
Yeah,
Lemon
I'm not a Don Lemon
really
fan
read
really,
him.
but I liked the clap back for sure and the clarification for sure. But yeah, definitely. All I can say about this is if you wanted the attention, you got it. But we just were talking about the Gay VN Awards recently, the basically adult film content awards. And we last week we were talking about this and all the fashion that we saw on there. That would be the place that you would expect maybe a naked adult performer to be walking down. And they didn't even do that on that runway. We had some pretty out there looks for sure. And if you want to listen to that, that is episode 635, where we kind of do our rundown, especially with Jeremy Russ Lopez, who's our kind of fashion expert guru. But nobody was buck naked like this was. And it's like she was at the wrong award ceremony, and it's just screams attention and ridiculousness. But yeah, I just think it's so funny because we were talking about the barely there looks that we saw at the Gay Vienna Awards just last week.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
That was not even really an outfit. It was just. My mom even called me. She was like, "What is this? What's going on with this young lady? She's naked on the red carpet." I was like, "Oh, mom, I don't know what to tell you. This is just
Yeah.
ridiculous." Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm all about being naked, and we talk a lot about the naked beach and how comfortable we are. There, I'm about to go and work with Vakaya, one of my favorite companies where they cruise excursions all around the world, and I'm about to go on their Caribbean cruise and work with them again. And we leave out of New Orleans, which is really kind of exciting to leave out of there. But there, I was looking at the party lineup, and we, even though I'm working with them, we're also allowed to dress up in costumes if we want to. And there's one of costume in particular. I forget what the actual theme name is because they always come up with some crazy themes. That is basically you can barely there. You can actually show up naked at this party, and I was
Oh.
thinking, as much as I like being naked, I have this loincloth that I might wear that basically is very short. And if I just barely there lifted up, you would see everything. And I think that's more of my style. And I am a fan of like the naked beach and being naked and free. But like her in this red carpet, I don't know, just walking into a party like with no clothes on, it's it's not a statement for me. It doesn't really, you know what I'm saying?
I get it. I
There's
totally
like
get it.
a difference, right? From naked beach and clothing optional institutions, campgrounds versus just showing up at a party with no. I've gone to sex parties before that I know I'm going to have fun. And you can be completely naked, but yet I'll have a jockstrap on because you can easily take it off. Like I want there just to be a teeny bit of mystery before I actually take it off. And
Yeah.
even when you go to a bathhouse, you typically have that teeny tiny, and believe me, teeny tiny, because they don't provide much, towel around you. It can come off in a second. How do you feel about that whole thing?
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I definitely want to show up in an outfit. I mean, like the outfits really enhance certain things. They hide certain things. You want that little air of mystery. So I get what you're saying, and I would completely have on a jock strap or something like that, something that is sexy, but not too revealing. Because just going naked, I don't know, with all the kibbles and bits hanging out, that's just too much for me.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how I am. And it just reminded me of that, seeing her basically buck naked on the red carpet. Okay, moving on. We got to talk about what's going on here in America because it does affect us all. And the new administration walked back a ban on doctors giving HIV medication to patients. There were actually people, Kodi, that went to get their medication for HIV and AIDS last week on Monday and
Hmm.
were turned away because the Trump administration told organizations that receive U.S. aid under PEPFAR to stop distributing HIV medications to patients, even if the drugs had already been obtained and are sitting in local clinics. Patients, like I said, were turned away from clinics. Now, they have since reversed that, but and people have really imparted, is this going to turn back to the 80s? Because those that can't get life-saving drugs like HIV medication could then potentially develop AIDS, because that's what's keeping them safe, healthy.
Yeah.
And it didn't really say anything about PrEP yet, because PrEP is preventing, as we know, you 99% from getting HIV, but there is a potential scare on that we've talked about on this show. I mean, I know I just had my physical just last Thursday and I had no problem getting my prep, but, and I knock on wood to make sure that that continues to be the case, that it's covered by my insurance. But we talk about Mister and so forth. But when you hear stuff like this, that there was a moment last week where people were turned away from getting their HIV meds.
What is wrong with him? Does he hate people that much? I don't understand this. But it is just beyond me that you would take life-saving drugs from the people who actually need them. It is just evil. I can't I can't fathom it. It really gives me no faith in humanity for somebody to actually do something like this, especially when it's been working for so long. Has he not seen the data of how low HIV infections are getting now? These are people's lives that he's playing with, and he doesn't care. He laughed at the fact of going to visit the helicopter crash. He made a joke about it. And it just shows how heartless and cold and how he doesn't have any respect for humanity.
Well, they're trying to make blanket throw things against the wall because they promised a lot of this. It's really speaking to that far right, that quote unquote wokeism that a lot of people have been complaining about, DEI and so forth. And so they're investigating all of these government federal agencies that provide money for all kinds of things. And they put a pause on all that to investigate it. That's all fine and dandy to be able to do those, but
Mm,
they didn't really look at the repercussions on some of these things. And that's why they instituted it right back, because they realized, okay, that one we can't, because that's actually saving people's lives. But they're trying to make a statement with all this, and it's really leaning towards what they talked about, that 900-page book, Project 2025, that has all kinds of things against our community, and rolling back to a very conservative Christian way of life.
you know what? But a lot of people that actually supported Trump are going to be affected by these policies, and they don't even realize it because he doesn't care about them. He doesn't understand that you can't really do that to people. I can't see this going well in the future, so it's making me sad.
It is. And alongside of that, Republicans, there's a really interesting article that I was reading today on USA Today of Sarah Pequeño wrote it. Republicans are going after marriage. LGBTQ plus people like me try to warn you. And it happens to be in her particular state. She says, I want to be able to get married and buy a home with someone. I want to be able to hold their hand in the hospital. I want the choice Idaho Republicans are trying to take from me and my community, which is currently under threat. When on Monday, the Idaho House of Representatives asked the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Obergefell. I always say that name wrong. Sorry, I just got
All good.
Ober. Well, that one versus Hodges. It was the landmark 2015 case that legalized same-sex marriage. Sorry for butchering that name. If the Supreme Court does take up the challenge and rules in favor of the Idaho House, it could mean the end of gay marriage in the US, actually, because it would be more of a federal. I mean, the Supreme Court would be hearing it. And if you think that couldn't be a possibility, just look at abortion and what happened with that just
Yeah.
in 2022, when they sent abortion back to the states, leaving 1 in 3 women to suffer under abortion bans. implemented by conservative state legislators. So this is a real thing that could be affecting a lot of people, something that we've come to know and accept. That I think, you know, my mom was asking me the other day, she's like, well, you've never talked about marriage at all. And I don't think you've never really wanted to get married or anything like that. And we were having this conversation, and I was like, well, Mom, maybe one of the reasons I haven't talked so much about marriage is because it never applied to me until a few years ago when Obama was in office. I
Mm.
didn't have, you can't dream of something that you isn't possible. And if I thought, at least when I knew I was gay, that wasn't an option. So maybe I did think about it, but am I going to marry a woman and know that I'm gay? No. So she was like, oh, right. I didn't think of it that way. I'm like, well, right. Why can you? If I wasn't talking about it, it was because it wasn't possible for me, and not until 2015. And so but then my sister corrected me and she said, I've heard you talk about dreaming about what you want at your wedding. And I would do this at my wedding. I'm like, oh, I guess I have to you. Talked a little bit about what my wedding would look like. And it's so funny. But what do you think about this and what this op ed is talking about the fear of maybe not being able to have her dream come true?
Yeah, we knew it was a possibility, and we knew I figured it out when they did what they did with Roe v. Wade. I knew that if that got overturned, then there was a very good possibility that they would be coming for gay marriage next. So I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked by this. I'm more shocked that he would try, and even if it was like a slight mistake or whatever, that he would try and get rid of the medications for HIV positive people. But this doesn't really shock me. It was something that uh, it was controversial in its time when it was actually happening, and I feel like a lot of people bristled at the thought of allowing gay people to be married. But it happened, and I was joyful because me personally, I have always dreamed about getting married. I want the big wedding with the matching tuxedos and maybe a veil. I just want all the things in my way.
Oh,
So
the full on accoutrement.
come on. I want a big, big wedding with all the shits and giggles and all the horns and bells and whistles and swans. So
I love it.
I hope that this does not get overturned. I hope that it's still a reality that gay people will be able to marry. That's why so many people are getting married right now. They're rushing to get married so they can be grandfathered in case it is overturned.
Absolutely. You are so right on that. Okay, moving on to other news. Can't believe tennis pro Martina Navratilova, who I used to be kind of a big tennis fan back in the day. And she wasn't my favorite, but I did respect her, of course, because we all know Martina was one of the greats in the sport. She has been so vocal over the last several years on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, social media, you know, long-standing lesbian against trans people and really accepting them. And it's like, I never really understand if you're within the community and you actually go against one of the letters that's in our community. It's like, I'm sure life wasn't easy for you as a lesbian. Why can't you have the same empathy and compassion, you of all people, for trans people? And she recently was outspoken saying that trans people weren't involved in the early gay rights movement. And she's
What?
definitely 100% wrong. And the article I got, she says, she was responding to somebody that said the modern gay rights movement would be nothing and nowhere without black trans women. So take a seat and shut the fuck up, dumbass. Well, there was an original, sorry, that's not the original, but there was somebody that was talking about trans people that have really contributed to the gay rights movement. And here's what she said, Martina: I have no idea who you are, but you really should know more about the gay rights movement and its origins before stating these ridiculous lies as facts. There were no trans people back then. Try again, rewriting history, she wrote. And a lot of people, of course, came back. I mean, you and I have talked extensively on this particular program about Marsha P. Johnson and
Mm-hmm.
Sylvia Rivera,
Yes,
two
ma'am.
leading Black and Latino trans folk, and where maybe at the time they weren't called transgender because that's a newer term, they were part of the community that was essentially the same thing that took over that, whether it was called transsexual at the time, they were of that. And they not only were fighters back then, there's really a great movie out there about Marsha, a documentary about Marsha P. Johnson that is awesome. I mean, I could just see Coleman Domingo producing a movie version of this, down the pipeline sometime in our hopefully nearer future. Couldn't you see that too?
Oh yeah, definitely. Mm.
And just, yeah, but what do you think about Martina mouthing off like this and putting out basically she's so anti-trans, and it's like, what do you care even? Like, what's your beef with all this?
And misinformed. I
And well,
cannot.
and more importantly, misinformed. Thank you.
Like, really, honey, get it together. The trans community was pivotal in making sure that gay rights were established and LGBTQ plus rights were established back in the day. We couldn't have done it without them. They were the leaders. They were our support. They were everything. So my hat goes out to my hat is tipped to the trans community, and I love them. So my sisters and brothers out there, I adore you. This Martina chick, I don't know her.
Yeah.
She's, you know what? I feel like sometimes a certain type of I don't know if I should be saying this, but women who
Say it. Too late.
who could be mistaken for transgender, they have an internalized beef towards transgender people because they feel like they have been misgendered their entire lives. But that's what trans people go through, and it's not their fault that you are receiving this misgendering in your life. That's not their responsibility. So I think maybe that could be a touch of it, but that's just me hypothesizing.
It's
I don't know
so
this lady.
selfish, though, if you're going down your theory, which I kind of agree with, to think that, I mean, we all know our own personal stories, and each one of ours could probably be a movie of the week, or at least a Lifetime movie, right?
Girl,
But
I mean, at least.
at
Hello.
least, but I'm just saying, it's when you know what your particular story was, your struggle, how hard it was to come out, what prejudices you faced coming out and trying to just be a human being in this world that at times maybe didn't really accept you, and the ridicule you got, why wouldn't you then have empathy and compassion for somebody within our acronym, their story, and knowing that that's probably even harder, transitioning for a gender that you never felt you were like born in the wrong body of
Hmm.
a gender that didn't, I mean, I can only imagine what that must feel like. But I mean, can you just imagine? I mean, we know what it's like just to know we don't like the opposite sex that way. We like the same sex, and that's hard enough. But if imagine if you just didn't feel like it would be so crazy. And to not
Yeah.
have that kind of empathy, and to know that, well, if my story is valid, why wouldn't somebody else's story be valid, is just ridiculous. And then if you even did feel that way, keep it to yourself. Don't put that out there.
Child.
They are the most marginalized community right now. And you putting that out there just legitimizes the hatred that's going to come and continues to come to that community. So shut up,
Yeah.
Martina.
We don't need the hate, Martina, number one. And I think you
Right.
kind of touched on something when you said, "Can you imagine?" And no, the answer is I cannot imagine, honestly, because I haven't gone through those experiences. There was a time in my life when I looked in the mirror and I kind of didn't recognize who I was as a person, but I have never felt gender dysphoria in
Right.
that way. So I can't imagine. And that's probably what's separating Martina from empathizing with trans folks. So maybe that is what it is. Maybe she cannot wrap her head around it. So her
But you don't
empathy
need to
is kind
wrap
of
your
blocked.
you don't
Right?
need to wrap your head around
I
it. You don't
I
need
feel you on that.
to, it's not your job to fully, and you never will, but you can it's about accepting your brothers, sisters, trans, everybody, and just it doesn't matter. This is what they are. If you can understand your story, which doesn't fall with societal norms from the
Mm-hmm.
get-go, you can definitely follow somebody else's. And why would you, as a lesbian, be putting hatred out there towards a community that is so marginalized and getting so much hate? It's just boggles my mind that you would go after that community. Who cares? Just accept them. I mean, they're
Girl,
not affecting your life. So
this the boggle episode.
yeah.
All the stories are boggling my mind.
Right. And more importantly though, know your history, which you are absolutely wrong. So she wasn't even correct in any of that. She can feel the way she feels, but she wasn't even accurate. So that alone gets her of the week. Yeah.
I love it. We should start doing that every week now.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Oh my gosh. Moving on to somebody that I just wanted to shout out. I know you're a fan of him, Alan Cumming. Who doesn't love Alan Cumming? I mean, come on.
Right?
Just turned 60, looking fabulous. You know, he's just, I saw him in Cabaret on Broadway, and it was just like amazing. He owns this bar here in New York City that I love, Club Cummings, that I often go to with, I think you've been as well. And it's a
Yeah.
teeny tiny spot in the East Village. And it's just so cool. He was just my
So
friend. I
cool.
have a bartender friend that works there, and said that after they had a traders night where they were watching the current season, and he was there with his
Let's
friends, and
go.
he's so loving and fun, and but really thinks about his staff all the time, and really just wanted to open up this bar that was just a fun space, but it's turned into a safe space for many. But back to turning 60, he just did this whole photo shoot where he was wearing Nasty Pig and on all fours and in really cool looks, looking fierce. And I just love it. But he says, quote, I can be queer and boring. I can be an activist and a hedonist. I can be a grown-up artistic director and dance my tits off on the dance floor. I can be a movie star and someone next to you on the bus. We all contain multitudes, but if we stop being curious, we'll never access them.
Mm.
And oh, my mantra alone, I think that's amazing. I feel we are so complicated and we can be all of these things and we can be boring sometimes and we can be the most fabulous person in the room the next minute. And I feel and everything in between. What do you think about Alan? What do you think about that statement and him turning 60?
I love Alan Cumming. I can't wait to. We need to go back to Club Cumming because it is really
Yes.
a good time, and I totally see what he's saying. I think that he has a great idea as far as we as people contain so many multitudes. That's what everything, everywhere, all at once is about. So you
Yes.
can't put us in the boxes. You can't try and limit us in our exploration of life. That's what life is all about. It's about recognizing all the facets of yourself. So good for you, Alan Cumming. I totally agree. And I want to hang out with him now because I want to pick his brain. I want to know what Alan Cumming has to, what he's thinking about, what his ideas on life are. I would just love to sit down and kiki with him.
Yeah, they always ask that question, like if you could have so many people at a dinner party, celebrity wise, past, living or dead, who
Yeah.
would you invite? He is right now on my current list of somebody that I would definitely
Ooh.
put on that list for sure. I mean,
Him
could
and
you imagine?
Beyonce.
Okay, that we're not talking about your dinner party. We're talking
Oh, okay. All
while
right,
I'm
fine.
while I'm happy for her,
Well, you would get an
she
invite too, so maybe you want to think about it.
I would go to it, but
Yay!
yeah, but thank you for including me. But definitely him. I am going on the Vakaya cruise. I mentioned that, and I think it was last year. He also has this cabaret act that he does with, oh, is it Ari from Oh, he's like a journalist, a major journalist. And sorry, I'm blanking on him, but they do this cabaret act that they've started, and often they do it in Palm Springs or whenever they're both free. And they are so good. They performed it on the cruise for Vakaya last year and were brilliant, so
Mm.
brilliant. And after it, we had a party that they always do on the top deck of the cruise. It's like we're out at sea. And I'll never forget, I was walking with my friend and we were walking by Alan and he was there dancing with some friends. And, it gets so crowded on those cruises. So you're really like, I was literally like on top of him, walking by him that
Mm-hmm.
close. And I just looked at him and I mouthed, "You were amazing." And he
Aw.
mouthed back, "Thank you." And yeah. So I was just like, I didn't want to be like gushing too much, but he was lovely, just like you think he is, and amazing. So
I
yeah,
adore
I love
him.
it. Yeah. Okay, let's switch some gears here. And there was an interesting article that I was like, this is so funny because I'll tell you why in a second, but why are they talking about on Queerty the Russian Turkish baths are filled lately with schwitzing twunks who are taking over Instagram. And they're talking about this Russian Turkish bath that's in the East Village here and the history of the Russian bath over the years and how it really started back in the day. At one point, it was political, where like in the 80s, like people in the mob would go there to talk business and
Oh.
they would hire staff members in there that were deaf so that they couldn't hear some of the stories that many of these people were talking
Word?
about.
Oh.
And then it went throughout the years on how, it's just been a whole thing. But lately, this one Instagram account, Russian Turkish Baths, is putting a lot of guys on camera at the Russian baths and having them talk about their experiences. Well, I laugh because bathhouses have been a whole thing with our community. This isn't that kind of bath, people, but it is.
It could be though.
I have a Russian friend, and it's the second time that I've gone with. I went just last week with him in Brooklyn, in your neck of the woods, to a Russian bath. And
Oh.
he was saying that, well, in general, everybody there, all the staff spoke Russian. He was saying it's nice to see that there's other people coming. There was like a whole Spanish contingent of people and still predominantly Russian, but basically you can, like, we did a 3 hour experience where you go in, you pay your money. It's basically all these dry saunas.
Mm.
And I love it when I either see my friend or some of the Russian men, you have to open this old brick cage and it's very archaic and you throw coals in there, water into them. And it's very like medieval times and they always do it very masculine. And it's just like, I'm equally turned on and freaking out that I'm going to get sprayed by hot scalding water, and it's this funny moment. But you kind of go from sauna to sauna. There is a steam room moment, and then there's that cold plunge you can do, which you've heard people talk about, that which I did.
Never
Or the
doing that.
cold well, it's I actually did it well, I have to say. You just have to get your breathing under control, and then when
Mm.
you're not doing that rotation, you can go into a communal area and grab a table. Thank God I was with my Russian friend because he navigated where we sat, and we ordered some like salty snacks and beer. You can order like soups and stuff like that from Russia, but you just kind of like repeat this process for the 3 hours. And it's really interesting. So I was really love that they did this article on it, but apparently it's drawing a lot of gay guys that are really realizing that, this is a really good to nurture your muscles when you're not working out. So guys, keep that in mind. It isn't like a bathhouse like
Oh.
we're accustomed to, but have you ever
Boo.
been to one, or what are your thoughts on this?
I've been to a sauna type deal, which I feel it sounds very similar. So I feel like I've never been to the Russian baths, but I would like to go. Maybe next time you go, I would go with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go with my friend because I feel like we're in good hands with him.
Oh yeah,
And
we need a emissary when we go
oh
over there.
yeah, and I was telling him too. I mean, why does it always sound like when they're talking at you, or you're talking at them, that you're angry? Or he says, "Oh, that's just the way we talk." He says, "Actually," I said, "My brother." I'm like, "That's what you said," because it sounded like you were rudely shouting at him, and he was like, "No, no, I was actually being really nice to him." He says, "We always look like we're angry, but we're not." I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh, I love
good to
that."
know.
Yeah, yeah.
Context matters.
So check that out. I'm happy. I will post this one because it's a really good Wallpaper Magazine did a whole story on it, and it's kind of interesting about learning about that. And check it out. And it is really good for your muscles too.
Yeah, I've been sore lately, so I want to go.
Oh, yeah. You might. Yeah, I think you would really benefit from it. And then if you do it kind of on an off day, or let's just say you did it at night, and sometimes check your local one, the fees can be a little bit lower. If you
Oh,
go
cool.
home after that, you will have the best night's sleep ever.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, it's amazing.
I definitely
So,
need this then.
yes, yeah, check that out. Okay. Let's just give a little bit of advice because we love to give advice on this show. And one of them came from Reddit where they were saying natural testosterone boosters. I discussed with my doctor checking my T levels, testosterone, and he said I was too young to worry about that. I'm 33. Doctor said that even if my T levels were low, the negative long term effects of starting hormone treatment would outweigh the benefits. So he advised to wait a few more years. And he was asking the questions, have you tried T boosters? Have those worked for you? I still need to get my T levels checked, but I want to get input from gay people, gay bros. And this has come up a lot lately. I'll tell you, I had a friend of mine just yesterday who's a little bit older than me. I just turned 54, and he's a little bit older than me, and said that he told his doctor, "Can I get my testosterone checked?" And she said, "Oh, are you having problems with sex? You don't need it done." And then I had somebody else say that they turned them away from it. And I just had my physical, like I said earlier in the show, just last Thursday. And I brought it up. I said, "Oh, well, we're doing all the blood work. Should we do the testosterone check?" And he said, "If you want to." When was the last time we did it? And he was trying to look over the chart. I think it was 2023. And he says, I said, "Yeah, let's do it." I mean, I really do feel you have to be your own advocate on your health. And he also said, "Do you want a flu shot?" And he was going over that, and he was kind of saying, and after he said all the stuff, I said, "No, I don't want that."
Yeah.
Because I just don't. Like, I feel like I don't want some of those shots in me. And I've done them before and still gotten sick. And I'm like, no. And I'm doing my own thing right now. But so you kind of have to be your own advocate. But I don't, to answer this guy's question, maybe you are too young, but it's a blood test. Just do it. Get that number because you just kind of want to know where you're at with it. People do suffer from low testosterone. My last one in 2023 was 637, and that's a good number for the age that I was at that time. Kodi, my number was over 1,000, which is
Bitch,
1,000 for 20-year-olds is considered really good.
what are you
But,
doing?
well, and I'm surprised my doctor hasn't called me as we record this on Monday because it is skyrocketed, I think. And I think it's because we had a guest on our show that has supplements, and forgetting his name right now, he's a doctor, but he has all these testosterone supplements. And he sent me the pills, and I was taking them daily. And I think it's that. So,
Give
but
me
it's
some.
almost too, I will, but I'm going to give you my stash because I think mine's too high and I don't need it. And you can actually, it's not good if it's actually too high either. I won't even get into some of the things that you don't want. I mean, anything, right? You don't want it too high, too low.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing it has to be these supplements that And that's the thing about supplements sometimes is they're unregulated. And that's why we tell our audience all the time, if you're doing the blood work already, if you're doing your annual physical, they can do this one too. It's just do it. I mean, I
Yeah.
got my results back in a day. What do you say to testosterone and all of these natural boosters and what we're talking about here?
So I take a natural booster now. Mine is in the middle, but now it's in the middle. But before it was like very low in the middle area. And of course, I spoke to my doctor about it because I would like to have a higher testosterone level. But he was just like your doctor and these other people's doctors. He said, it's fine where it is right now. I don't think it needs to be any higher. Because I was going to go on the TRT or whatever that replacement is, and he was totally against it because I will agree with this that once you get on stuff like that, yeah, you have to be on it constantly because it doesn't regulate it anymore. Your body doesn't regulate your testosterone
Well,
anymore. So
to what you're saying, I think a lot of people. So, my boyfriend's cousin was texting him and saying, "Hey, I want to try. I'm trying to get," and he's super young. He's like in
mhm.
his 30s and wants to get on testosterone. But I said, well, tell him first to ask his doctor to check his levels because he's starting to work out a lot and he thinks, oh, I want to get on testosterone. My understanding is when you take some of these replacements, like
Yeah,
the ones that you can get from your doctor, your body stops then making testosterone because it's like
exactly.
it's already wants to produce it, but it's like, oh, I see you're trying to get it in here. No, then we'll stop. And then you stop your natural process of doing
And
it. So
you have to
with
take it for the rest of your life.
yeah, so don't do it when you don't need to.
Yeah,
I told
exactly.
him, but more importantly, if you think you had a problem with it, it's a blood test. Get the blood test to find that out. But you really should only be doing that of a certain age, I think. And I was just, yeah, I mean, that's a 30-year-old that was asking for it that didn't even know his levels, but just thought he wants to take it. A person a little bit older than me in his 50s who his doctor basically turned him away from it. It's like, you get to
Two
know
different
this,
cases.
and we are
Yeah.
men, and you should be able to know that. And so I say, yeah, get that blood test and find out what your levels are. Chances are they're fine. And if not, then you can have this conversation with your practitioner and find out the best solution for you. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I think that when you have the knowledge and you can advocate for yourself, and that knowledge comes from getting your blood taken and getting the test run that you need to in order to ensure that you are comfortable with where your body is, because at the end of the day it's your body and you have to advocate for it.
but honey, I've been waking up with these hard-on
Mama,
erections,
I need this
and
right now. I
I've
need for you
been
to I'm coming to your
standing.
house tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, and I need to give it away because it's just like too much. And my boyfriend was like, "What? You were like in heat?" I'm like, "Yes, baby, come on." He's like, "It's that testosterone supplements." He's like,
I love
"Stop
it.
it." And
I
I'm
won't
like,
take it every day, but I will start taking it.
"Yeah," but then get the blood test to find out like
Yes.
what yours
I
is.
I was
And
trying to look for mine now because I did just have one because it's important to me. I would like to mainly for muscles, but
yeah, well,
I
for muscles, for sex drive, and also for mood for us, like your mood is affected. Like if a person's testosterone was quite low, you might feel like, why am I angry or acting out a lot? And it could sometimes it is because it's a hormone, right? And men are linked to our testosterone as women to estrogen. And so if it's low, it can affect the imbalance of your mood. So
yeah.
that's why it's important, really. And for mood and obviously sex too. And like you said, working out and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
oh my God, always great catching up with you. So many topics. I love it. You can always follow Kodi on Instagram at Mr. Maurice. Follow him on Blue Sky at Mr. Maurice as well. And you can follow me on the gram. I am _Steve V. Or go to my Blue Sky or X account at TAGSPodcast. And there you actually get a preview of my Just for Fans or Only Fans. And I am shooting new content beginning this week. So stay tuned for that. I'm feeling frisky with all that testosterone. Don't forget, you can go to our Patreon page where you can support the show that you've known and come to love. Go to patreon.com/tags podcast. Grab a tier and you get extra special sexy perks like commercial free or our bonus episode that we produce once a month. Or you get my 50 and fabulous tips and tricks on how to look and feel your best. Patreon.com/tags podcast. And Kodi, in the meantime, continue having hot
Hot
gay
gay
sex.